So there's no scripture time today. I will read as I preach. So we were singing the same song last week, if you remember. Did you notice the lyrics? It says, Satan shall buffet, trial should come. Exactly how the songwriter put it, life is oftentimes challenging and difficult. Look at this Wounded Deer by Frida, full of pain and suffering. And I'm not just talking about the pandemic we just walk out of, but life in general. Unemployment, financial hardship, physical illness, broken relationship, loneliness. At some point in our lives, we have to face them one way or the other. And if troubles, trials, and tribulations, all the TR words, they're bad words, TR, are unavoidable and not in our control, what would be the best thing to do when they come? How should we respond to them? So today we'll look at this couple from the Bible. They're facing the same challenge, but their responses are interestingly very different. And let's see what we can learn from them. So I am reading from the NASB. I really like this translation because it's very literal. So you will pick up some odds and it's very good for Bible study. So 1 Samuel, if you have your own Bible, turn to 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 1 to 2. Now there was a man from Ramathaim Sophim, from the hill country of Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Joram, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Seth, an Ephraimite. And he had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. So there are 2 things right off the bat I want you to know about this man, Elkanah. Number 1, he is an Ephraimite. You might have heard of the name Ephraim from the Bible. So again, Sunday school, Jacob had 12 sons, and one of the 12 is Joseph, and he had received double portion of blessing. So later his 2 sons, Manasseh, I am so sorry, it's not in order. Manasseh inherited the land and became the 2 half-tribes of Israel. So there's in total 12 tribes because 2 of them are half, 0.5. But Elkanah is not from the half-tribe of Ephraim. You can find his name in the priestly genealogy in 1 Chronicles 6. He's actually a Levite. So the tribe of Levite is the only tribe that does not have any land possession. The Levites just live everywhere, and it just happened that Elkanah was living in the land allotted to Ephraim, so he's called an Ephraimite. So we'll come back to this. But I want to keep in mind that this guy had no land. But number 2, this guy has 2 wives. Oh, wow. Polygamy. Well, that's common in the Bible. God allows it. No. It's not true. God does not approve of polygamous relationship. If you have ever read through the book of Leviticus and Deuteronomy successfully, then you will know that even the kings are not supposed to have multiple wives, and nobody can marry 2 sisters from the same family. The scripture never said you should take for yourself multiple wives, but it only tells you if that happens, if that's the case, this is what you should do. Those laws are written to protect the women. Do you guys know what a safe injection site is? Or supervised consumption site? You've heard of those? So it's the same logic. It's not that doing drug is legal, but since people are doing it anyway, might as well do it safely. So God never approved of polygamy. It's God's grace. So it's not God honoring at all. But Elkanah did it anyway because Hannah was barren. So he took for himself another wife in order to have children. Okay, well, what's the big deal of not having children well, 2023, there are a lot of people don't choose not to have children. Can't you be childless and be content? Well, didn't you just tell me Elkanah was a Levite? So it's not like he has any land to pass down. Well, that's true. Well, but maybe Elkanah had other possessions. I don't know. The Bible didn't say. But for the Israelites, it was very important to preserve the family line of succession. So not only the inheritance will pass on, but the nation will live on. So when Elkanah was facing the TR word, the bad word, trials, tribulation, troubles, in this case, infertility, right away, he took it in his own hand. He was thinking, oh, I must do something about it. Hannah was barren, so I will take another wife. It doesn't matter if Hannah likes it or if God likes it. The end justifies the means. You probably have heard of people say, God helps those who help themselves. Have you heard of that saying all the time? You won't find such a line in the Bible or even principle close to that line, because Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. We're not called to help ourselves. But the ironic thing is, when we help ourselves, sometimes it works. Look at Elkanah. It worked for him. Peninnah had many children. And that's God's grace, definitely. But we got to watch out and be very careful. The moment we start to believe, oh, we can always fix our own problems, then we'll stop turning to the Lord. So when trouble comes, we'll say, we're good. We got this. We don't need God. That's just self-help. That's not faith. And that's Elkanah. Then what about the wife? What about Hannah? You know, since they're facing the same problem, infertility. So let's read on to find out more. Verse 3-8. Thank you, Tim. Now this man, Elkanah, would go up from his city yearly to worship and to sacrifice to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, so they were like high priests to the Lord there. When the day came that Elkanah sacrificed, he would give portions to Peninnah his wife and to all her sons and her daughters. But to Hannah he would give a double portion, for he loved Hannah, but the Lord had closed her womb. Her rival, however, would provoke her bitterly to irritate her because the Lord had closed her womb. It happened year after year. As often as she went up to the house of the Lord, she would provoke her, and she wept and would not eat. And then Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep and why do you not eat? Why is your heart sad? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? So yearly, Elkanah would go to Shiloh, so where the house of God, the tabernacle is. So 3 times a year at least, the Israelites would bring their offering and travel to Shiloh across from the land for major feasts like Passover or like Feast of the Booths, or just to make sacrifice. So whatever animal they bring along with them, they will hand it over to the priest, and they will chop them up and burn it on the altar. And so they save a portion for themselves and return some for the family to share. So then Elkanah received that roast beef or roast lamb, whatever, and he rationed the meat. So for Peninnah, he will give enough for each of her kids. And very obviously, Elkanah favors Hannah because he will always give him double portion even when Hannah had no children. So the rival, the other wife, obviously very jealous of Hannah, so she would irritate Hannah and ridicule her, and not just a single incident, not a one-time thing, but year after year. So Hannah would cry like that baby and would not eat. Her husband, Elkanah, would try to comfort her. Hannah, why don't you eat? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? So it's a Hebrew saying. I know it's a little sexist, but back then sons are very precious, and 10 is the perfect number. So Elkanah is saying, you still have me, and I'm just as good. Hannah seems to be very dramatic, but I have to speak for her. I have to speak for Hannah here. She's not being difficult. We have to understand that pain she was going through. Back then, if you were a woman and if you're married and not have children, you're considered cursed. So think about this. Not only Hannah have to share a husband with another woman, and this woman is constantly mocking her, provoking her, and she couldn't do anything. And I will believe it wasn't that woman, but everyone in the family, everyone in the community was judging her and giving her pressure year after year. I can totally relate to her. I've been married for 8 years now, almost. Next week is our anniversary again. All my siblings, cousins, friends have kids, and I still don't. And every time when I see my family in Toronto and Hong Kong, they're like, are you pregnant yet? Why don't you have kids? Where are your kids? Year after year. It's very annoying. But at least I could run back to Ottawa, but Hannah couldn't. She's stuck with her rival. So if you were Hannah, all of you are Hannah, what would you do? If I was Hannah, I would first turn to my girlfriends and complain about the situation, of course. And if I'm really desperate for a child, I would take it in my own hands. I would try everything possible. I'll change my diet. I would take supplement. I'll even try IVF if back then was an option. I think many women here would agree with me. We just got to try everything until it happens. But let's see what Hannah did, what Hannah actually did in response to infertility. Verse 9 to 11. Thank you, Tim. Then Hannah rose after eating and drinking in Shiloh. Now Eli the priest was sitting on the seat by the doorpost of the temple of the Lord. Temple here just means the tabernacle, because the temple hasn't been built. Solomon built it. So she greatly distressed, prayed to the Lord, and wept bitterly. She made a vow to the Lord and says, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your maidservant and remember me, and not forget your maidservant, and will give your maidservant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and a razor shall never come on his head. When troubles, trials, and tribulation come, Hannah turned to God. Verse 11, and look at the way she prayed. Hannah humbled herself. She called herself a maidservant 3 times. She's saying, I'm nobody compared to you, God. I'm only your servant. But Lord of hosts, Lord of armies, have mercy on me. Remember me. I know you're able. I know you can do something. And the crazy thing was, she didn't ask for a son for herself. Hannah didn't ask for a son so she can be happy or so that the other woman can leave her alone. She asked for a son so that she can give him back to the Lord. Look at the scripture again. She said, the razor shall never come on his head. It's a Nazirite vow. She's setting her son apart to be a Nazirite, to serve God all the days of his life. Like John the Baptist in the New Testament. He was a Nazirite. These people never cut their hair. They don't drink strong drink. They just serve God. And this is Hannah. Hannah didn't take it into her hands right away like Elkanah, her husband, did, but she turned to God. But don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we shouldn't do anything when life hits. But before we do anything, shouldn't God be the first person we turn to? Shouldn't prayer be the first thing we do if you really trust in him and believe that he is sovereign? Let's read on. We'll stop at verse 18 today. Verse 12. Now it came about as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli, the high priest, was watching her mouth. As for Hannah, she was speaking in her heart, only her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. So Eli thought she was drunk. Then Eli said to her, "How long will you make yourself drunk? Put away your wine from you." But Hannah replied, "No, my Lord, I'm a woman oppressed in spirit. I have drank neither wine nor strong drink, but I have poured out my soul before the Lord. Do not consider your maidservant a worthless woman, for I have spoken until now out of my great concern and provocation." Then Eli answered and said, "Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant your petition that you have asked of him." She said, "Let your maidservant find favor in your sight." So the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. That's crazy. Why is she not sad? She was just greatly distressed before. We just read that. And after she prayed, she is no longer sad. She's not pregnant right away. And her rival is still there waiting to bully her. Nothing has changed. And even if the high priest, Eli, has blessed her and affirmed her, okay, may God hear your prayer, the circumstance remains the same. Why is she not sad? Because when Hannah prayed, she didn't just pray like a habit, but she truly trusts in the power of prayer, and she knows everything will happen according to God's plan and God's timing. We have the Bible here, though I know it's only for decoration. We have the Bible here, so of course we know God had given her a son, and his son is named Samuel. But Hannah didn't know that. She couldn't see her future. There's no guarantee. We just learned from the children's message, God is sovereign. So God might not even give her a son if it's not his will. But for Hannah, even if her circumstance hasn't changed, even if God might say no at the end, she still chooses to trust in him. And that's faith. And if Hannah would only feel better and stop crying after she get pregnant, that's not faith. Have you guys done a trust fall before? You know, usually you fall backward. But then it's like, oh, now I want to do it facing the front. I have to make sure that everyone has their arms stretched out and secure. Okay, everyone is like big enough to hold my weight. Otherwise, I'm not going to fall. And that's not faith. When you walk by sight, that's not faith. Brothers and sisters, I'm not sure what you're going through or what you've been praying about, or even if you trust in the power of prayer at all. But it is true for all of us here. Life is oftentimes difficult. Unemployment, financial hardship, physical illness, broken relationship, loneliness, infertility. If troubles, trials, tribulations are unavoidable and not in our control, would you want to be like Elkanah, the husband? Take things in your own hands and just hope for the best? Sometimes works, sometimes we don't know. Or would you want to be like Hannah? Turn to God and trust in him. Even if our circumstance remains the same, still trust in him and know that he is sovereign and things will happen according to his plan and his timing. Let's meditate on the message as you listen to our reflection song. Our prepared song is only a couple of minutes. Pay attention to the lyrics.
They say sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. And right now I'm losing bad. We stood on this stage night after night, reminding the broken it'll be alright. But right now, oh right now I just can't. It's easy to say when there's nothing to bring me down. But what will I say when I'm held to the flame like I am right now? I know you're able and I know you can stay through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. They say it only takes a little faith to move a mountain. Good faith, a little faith is all I have right now. God, when you choose to leave mountains unmovable, oh, give me the strength to be able to sing. It is well with my soul. I know you're able and I know you can sing through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is in you alone. I know the sorrow and I know the hurt would all go away if you just say the word. But even if you don't, my hope is in you alone. You've been faithful, you've been good all my days. Jesus, I will cling to you. Come one minute, 'cause I know you're able. I know you can. I know you're able, and I know you can. See through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is in you alone. I know the sorrow, I know the hurt would all go away if you just say the word. But even if you don't, my hope is in you alone. It is well with my soul. It is